Oh my God. Welcome everybody. I'm an idiot. That's very funny. I literally forgot to push the go live button on YouTube. I'm sitting here going, why is nobody responding to me on YouTube? Hey Jenna, thank you for the gift. Oh my, I didn't push the live button. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. That is too funny. Anyway, welcome TikTokers. At least I know how to do you guys. Oh my God, that was absolutely too funny. I just spaced out. Yeah. I'm literally sitting here going, why is nobody responding? Oh my God. Oh well. I know. Yeah, now it's working. Hey Shane, thank you for the gift. Oh, see what happens? I like take a day off and all of a sudden I like forget how to even start the show. I kid you not. Thanksgiving was very nice. Nice as always, large family gathering. We had a lot of actually the food was excellent. Like across the board. It was one of those sort of I'm too warm. I take my Mr. Rogers sweater off. It was one of those sort of rare Thanksgiving where everything is perfect. You know what I mean? Like all the food was to die for across the board, which was really nice. Yeah, it's the age exactly. I'm getting into the senior zone where. Thank you, John. Where all of a sudden I can't figure out quite how to do anything. Oh my God, that was too funny. Anyway, welcome guys. Yes, so hey Bupple. Yes, the problem was I thought I was live on TikTok and I hadn't actually pushed the live button, so nobody was able to see me. Oh my. Welcome, folks. Welcome, TikTokers. Hey, Derek. Hey, guys. So there isn't a ton of news today, I will tell you. I mean, the Israel stuff, there's like one big story that everybody knows, but we'll talk about it. Ukraine, a couple little stories. There isn't any big news on either front, but, you know, that'll give us time to kind of hang out and chat about it, so no big deal. No big whoop. I guess I'll start introducing now. So the way the show works is I go through the news that I pick that I think is interesting. Thank you, Cami. I try to give you guys sort of a summary based on my knowledge of foreign affairs and journalism and all sorts of issues, politics in Washington, doing it forever. And then I take your guys' questions. For folks who are on YouTube, you can ask a question early. Thank you, Tom, because YouTube has a super chat function where if you ask me a super question or super chat or whatever it's called, I will always get to that as the next thing I talk about. Otherwise, thank you, Stewie. Otherwise, for following me. Otherwise, I also appreciate your guys' gifts on TikTok. Please keep those coming as well. And I will always try to do a shout out. Thank you, Canada Zen. I'll always try to do a shout out for the gifts that pop up on the screen like that, the big gifts, as a thank you. Just remind folks, I do this full time. So your gifts do make a difference. Thank you, Dawn, because that's how I'm able to do this work, because basically you guys help pay the bills. So thank you for that. Oh, thanks, Dawn, for the turkey. I keep forgetting about the Halloween theme or the Thanksgiving theme stuff. All right, guys, so let's get rolling. So welcome all. Happy Thanksgiving for the Americans. I hope things went well with the family. Ours was fun. Lots of good food. Now kind of, today's leftover day, so that's good. Just had some pumpkin pie as a snack before the show to hold me over, so I'm not going to be whining about food. Let's get rolling. Oh, tomorrow. So today's Friday. Saturday, we have our coffee talk, as I call it for TikTok, coffee talk for everybody else, where basically I go live for the paid subscribers as a thank you. So that's the paid monthly subscribers on TikTok, YouTube, Ko-fi, Discord, blah, 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 blah. On TikTok, you guys who are the monthly subscribers, the SNN folks, you see Ash and Shane and Timothy and Dawn. You guys, I think, I didn't, Dawn, maybe not. Sorry, Dawn. Thank you, Cheryl. The paid monthly subscribers. Oh, cool. Thank you, Cheryl. For the Vegas. You guys can join us tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Actually, no, I'm changing the time. 11 a.m. Central Time. So that will be noon DC time, noon Eastern time, because that way it's a little easier for me. So it's starting at 11 o'clock Chicago time, 12 o'clock Washington or New York time. There you go. What else? There you go. And then for the rest of you, so TikTok, join us on TikTok. The rest of you will join us on YouTube. All right. The rest of the monthly subscribers. All right, guys, let's get rolling here. So the big story, I'll start with Israel. The big story out of Israel today, obviously, is the ceasefire. It has been implemented. A number of the hostages have been released by Hamas. A number of the prisoners have been released by Israel. All going well so far within reason. Just to give you some of the details, first 13 hostages were released by Hamas via the Rafah crossing, right? It'll be on, it's always going to be, I don't know what I said. It's going to be on Discord. Sorry. Yeah. All the monthlies that are not TikTok will be on Discord. Exactly. Sorry about that. Maybe, did I say YouTube? Sorry. But yeah, so 13 hostages were released. They were released by the Egyptian crossing, southern Gaza, went into Egypt, and then got handed over to the Israeli Defense Forces and are now undergoing medical exams, meaning their families, things like that. Thank you, Blue Ariels. The separate. Now, this is interesting. Separately from the hostage deal itself, Hamas released 10 Thai nationals and 1 Filipino hostage. That's interesting because, I mean, we've been saying all along how weird it was that basically Hamas had taken a bunch of Thai nationals from Thailand, clearly people who do not look Israeli, and I mean, they clearly look Asian. It's ridiculous. And 20% of the hostages were from Thailand. Now, they were probably there as guest workers, farm workers or whatever in Israel. But the fact that Hamas would grab like 20% Thai is weird, right? I mean, you'd think they'd see Asians and go, okay, these are clearly not Israelis. Why are we grabbing these guys? In any case, they reached some separate deal, separate from the deal with Israel, that they're releasing the Thai nationals. So anyway, that's just interesting to me. Thank you, JRD. Now, again, I doubt they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. So I'm kind of wondering what Thailand might have done in order to get those hostages released. I'm a little worried about that, but who knows? Thank you, Adventures. Otherwise, 39, well, somewhere between 39 and 33 Palestinians prisoners were released from Israel. The Red Cross says 33. Qatar, who helped negotiate the deal, says 39. So, kind of shows you where things are, that we're still kind of figuring out how many were released. 24 women and 15 teenagers, if you count the 39, who were held in Israeli prisons. 50 Israeli hostages are expected to be freed over the 4-day period. 150 Palestinian hostages, 150 Palestinian prisoners, that would be. And, so far, so good. Just to remind you, sort of the deal is neither side can fight, within Gaza. Well, I'm assuming it's not just within Gaza. I mean, I'm assuming Hamas cannot do anything in Israel either. Thank you, Canada Zen. Israel is not allowed to fly drones over southern Gaza at all. They're not allowed to fly drones, thank you, Martin, over northern Gaza for a 6-hour period from 10 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. The Red Cross is supposed to be able to get in to see prisoners. I was reading a little bit of controversy about that, so it's not actually totally clear to me what's going on with the Red Cross seeing the prisoners, meaning the hostages that are being still held. It looks like no Americans were released. We thought at least the youngest American was going to be released. Looks like she wasn't. The 3-month-old girl, or 3-year-old girl who just turned 4 years old today, she was not released. So it's still a bit up in the air. Now, I was watching a really interesting analysis today from General Kimmett, who's a American general, very smart guy, very interesting guy. I've met him before. I mean, very smart guy. He was saying he thinks Israel's going to have a hard time taking out Hamas, and not simply that it's a tall order, right, to take them out entirely, but he thinks the ceasefire is making it so Israel will not be able to basically take Hamas out of the picture, because Israel's goal here is to get back the hostages, but also to destroy Hamas, take away their weapons, capture them, and remove them as the government of Gaza. What Kimmett was saying is, we've got the ceasefire for 4 or 5 days. This gives Hamas time to dig in, right? Get their weapons, rest, get more ammunition, whatever. They've got another, if they're releasing 50 hostages, they had 240. That gives them another 190 minus, I think, 2 or 3 dead, 187 maybe hostages they've got. If they keep releasing them slowly, right, they could release a slow amount and drag this out forever. Just because they're releasing 50 this time doesn't mean they have to release 50 next time. Next time they could do 25, right? And his concern, or I should say his observation, was Hamas could keep just dragging this out, and Israel would basically, a permanent ceasefire would be in effect. Now, Israel could start the fighting again at some point if they don't renegotiate or after all the hostages are released. But I wonder for Israel, even now, for example, after the 5 days, I think this ceasefire puts more pressure on Israel not to start the fighting again. Because even though it's a temporary ceasefire, if you start killing again, it becomes all the more shocking. Even if it's justified, doesn't matter. It'll just be once again, oh my God, they're doing it again. The news stories from around the world. I don't know. Now, having said that, I don't know if Israel cares, meaning trying to pressure Israel is a difficult thing. I do think that Israel agreed to the ceasefire probably in large part because President Biden pushed them. Netanyahu, my guess would be Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, would have been less likely to do this ceasefire. Other parts of the government and other parts of society might have been more willing, like maybe the more liberal or the more, when I say liberal, I mean left side, might have been willing to say, yeah, let's work something out, at least for 4 days. Netanyahu, my guess is, would say, screw it, keep fighting. Thank you, Elsh. I just think it puts Israel in an interesting position. Thank you, James, as far as starting the fighting again when the time runs out in 4 days. If Hamas, so in other words, they're in a weird position if Hamas keeps dribbling hostages out, because it means then the ceasefire keeps going. And after a while, does it establish its own inertia? They're also in a weird position when they start fighting again. Thank you, Root. Having said that, I don't know what choice they've got. As I said, because Hamas did such a horrific attack on Israel, it's not just like, oh, you blow some Hamas guys up and it's even. The imperative still exists that they've got to take Hamas out. How do you do it? DP. Oh, so kind of weird point that I thought, but I was reading today was, when you think of the hostages that were released today, these are people that were grabbed, in the beginnings of the attack, right? Some of these were people in their kibbutzes, in their local towns and villages. These guys came at 6:30 in the morning. They slaughtered everybody, and then they grabbed some of the other people. So you had no news on what was going on. Some guy came into your house, killed some of your relatives, and took you hostage. Depending on what they had access to while they were hostages, these guys may have no idea, the hostages, the Israelis and others who were being held by Hamas, they may have no idea what even happened on October 7th, right? So these guys are getting released. I mean, in terms of sort of the added horror of all of this, thank you, Succeed. The rest of us have had time to process this. These guys are just going to be learning about what happened on October 7th, the carnage, the number of people, their own family members, they don't know. These guys, most likely, a lot of them may not know that their family members are dead. Thank you, Succeed. So very weird situation for them, unfortunately, as far as the trauma they're going to be going through. In addition to just sort of the trauma of being held hostage for 49 days and being released. So some tankers and relief supplies have already started going in. That was part of the deal as well. Thank you, Noah. The deal was that as part of the ceasefire, Israel would allow something like, I was seeing 200 trucks, and then I also saw 300 trucks mentioned. Today I saw 200, but 200 relief vehicles going into Gaza. Before the war, there were I think 400 a day, maybe 350 a day going in. During this conflict now, there have been about 100 a day going maximum. So 200 would be twice that, which is still very good. But some figures, as Haddle is saying, some figures are saying 300. Some media reports are saying 200. It depends. Depends who you read. So I think we should consider that undecided yet. What else we got here? Actually, only the final point. There's no other news in terms of what's going on with all of this. The other news is President Biden did this. I mean, this negotiation was President Biden. He was the one doing the shuttle diplomacy. He was the one, I guarantee you, putting the pressure on Israel to do this. If you don't like it, blame Biden. If you do like it, give him some credit. But my guess would be unfortunately, a lot of the protesters types aren't going to give Biden any credit for anything anyway, because I think that's part of what's going on with protesting Biden. These are folks who didn't like him anyway, but nonetheless, what do you do? But Biden, this is significant what Biden did as far as, as far as it goes, put it that way. All right. Let me do the Ukraine update. Again, neither of these stories have a lot of news today. I'll do the Ukraine update, and then we can do our question and hanging out and talking and everything else. Ukraine. So real quick, now we'll do the Ukraine war update. It's day 636 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. Real quick. Game Legend. Thank you, Danan, by the way, for the gift on TikTok. Game Legend asked a super chat question. And Napoleon. Did you see Putin move nukes closer to Europe? I did not see that. No, but are you saying he's moving more into Belarus? Thank you, Joe. I didn't see that today. No. Is he, hey Stooge, hey Triff, is he moving them into Belarus or what? I mean, I don't particularly care. I mean, what I mean is if it becomes a strategic threat, we'll move more nukes too, right? Remember, Putin is trying to freak us out. That's what this is all about. He's actually trying to freak you out. That's what's going on. People like me and some of you know about our nuclear weapons and everything else. So I couldn't care less that Putin's moving his weapons closer to Europe. I mean, he can already shoot a missile from Siberia and hit any city on the planet. Who cares if he moves them closer to Europe? You know what I mean? He's doing it to freak people out. That's the only reason he's doing it. Any of this stuff. It's just that they're doing it to freak out the Europeans, to freak out the Americans, but they're pretty much doing it to freak out, as I said, people who don't know the strategy, who don't know the nukes. Because to me, I'm like, whatever. We've got nukes too. If Putin wants to use his nukes, that would be too bad, because then we'd use ours and he wouldn't exist anymore. We wouldn't exist anymore, but neither would he. And he knows that, which is why he's not going to use them, right? But he's hoping to get sort of people in the public at large who hear it and go, oh my God, Putin's moving nukes closer to Europe. Oh my God, he's testing a new nuclear weapon. Oh my God, are we going to die? And because they don't know the background. And that's what he's hoping. He's hoping to freak out everybody out there. Show and tell, exactly. Well, actually, show and tell, because there's a funny show and tell cartoon of Putin in class, and he's holding up a nuclear weapon as a child, and the teacher goes, okay, Vlad, that's the 9th time you've told class that you have nuclear weapons. We know. And it's just like, dude, give me a break. So yeah, he's doing it to freak you guys out. That's all it is. He knows that our government and everybody else is going, dude, you've got nukes. Congratulations. So do we. So do the French. So do the British. And you can't touch any of our nukes. At least our nukes that are in the oceans, in the submarines, you're never going to touch them. So, all right, let's keep going here, and then we'll get to the Q&A. I did talk about the hostages in Israel, but we'll do it in a second. Once I'm done with the Ukraine news, then we'll do Q&A and we'll talk about it all again. All right, Latvian president arrived in Ukraine today, which was nice for an official visit. A really weird story out of Bild today. Now, tell me something, you Europeans. I think you guys have told me that Bild is not necessarily the most credible news source, or what? What's the deal from Germany and the rest of Europe? As an American, I hear Bild and think, I've always known of them. I always thought they were a reasonable news source as an American, but I wouldn't know a German paper, So what's the deal? Thank you, Pam. Because the story I'm going to tell you is really pissing me off about what's going on with Germany and the U.S. and Ukraine. But just curious, I'll jump into it. But if you guys want to weigh in and just tell me, is Bild, B-I-L-D, would you consider them a credible source, or are they a little bit? Thank you, Alex. A little bit sensational, shall we say? Thank you, Chase. That's funny. Even with the drink, it showed the glasses. That was funny. It's a nonsense rag. Okay, well, that's what I mean. Some people are saying nonsense. Well, let me tell you what they're reporting today. The thing that worries me is well, I know about Der Spiegel. I'm asking about Bild. Bild is a tabloid, but does that mean you don't trust them? Thank you, Pedro, for the hearts. Described as a tabloid. Okay. So basically, it's kind of what people are saying is they're not Der Spiegel. Well, here's the thing with their reporting. And what worries me is it's certainly consistent. What they're saying, but good to know that they're a little bit of a tabloid, so we'll take this with a grain of salt. Here's what they're saying. The U.S. and Germany hope to nudge Ukraine to negotiate with Russia through a carefully targeted scope of arms deliveries. Kyiv's two leading donors plan to provide the exact quantity and quality of arms to ensure that Ukraine can hold the front and have a strong negotiating position, but not enough to fully liberate its territory. The funny part is we're already doing that. I mean, this is the irony of this, is in a way, it's a scoop that we've already known about for a year and a half. This is what I've been saying from the beginning, is that we are giving Ukraine just enough weapons to basically get back some of its land. Where's my little map? Hang on, get to the map. Oops. We're giving Ukraine enough that if they were successful, we wouldn't mind if Ukraine got back this territory, the stuff that they lost in the last year and a half, right? What we don't want Ukraine to get is this. I want Ukraine to get this, but Biden doesn't. Neither do, I think, the Germans or the French government. They don't want him to get this back, Ukraine, because this is a big deal to Putin. Putin would really freak out if he lost this. And remember, kids, Putin's got nuclear weapons. Even though there isn't a flat chance in hell, I think, for Putin to ever use his nukes, Biden is scared of Putin. He is. I mean, he is. I think Biden's done a great job in Ukraine, but he's still scared of Putin. And I think he's shown that too many times. So that's what's going on. So from the beginning, it's been clear that we are not giving Ukraine enough weapons to take Crimea. We're giving them enough that may, and honestly, we didn't give them enough for the counteroffensive either. Come on, right? I mean, we all know this. We held off on giving them the weapons. We gave them like a slow amount. I'm trying to adjust my shirt as I talk to you. We gave them sort of, we held back on giving them what they needed. And then when we gave them what they needed, we did it really slowly. You remember the HIMARS? Like the first time we gave them like a HIMAR, and a couple of weeks later, I think we gave them a second. And the next month we gave them 2 more. the rocket systems, right? We weren't going to give them Patriot missiles forever. We waited a year, 9 months for those. We waited forever for the tanks. They only got the tanks from us September, like 2 months ago, and we only sent them 31 tanks. The F-16s probably aren't arriving till next summer. I mean, everything, we didn't want to give them enough for them to make a big boom. We wanted to give them enough to make a little boom. So anyway, all I'm saying is this build story is funny almost in a way, because what it's saying is exactly what we already know, which is Biden, France, and Germany never wanted Ukraine to actually win the war outright. Geert Wilders. So a point that I didn't pick up on last time, and I should have, or a couple times ago, a new far-right racist lunatic has won the prime minister race or the parliamentary race in Holland, in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders. And among other things, he's, been kind of pro-Putin and anti-Ukraine. And the concern is whether this is now going to be another far-right populist. And by the way, this is really creepy at this point, because typically far-right in the old days would not exactly be pro-Russia, right? It would be far left that was pro-Russia. But now you've got like this whole group of I mean, it depends if I don't even know if calling them far right is appropriate. Maybe it's the racist right is the better phrase for it. You've got like the racist populist right, Trump, Wilders, Orban in Hungary, Le Pen in France. She's fascist. I mean, that's a whole other story. Thank you, Timothy. But all of these guys are pro-Putin, and it just kind of makes me wonder if there isn't a payoff going on or something with some of these people, because it's too weird that some of these people should be far right and be like, we freaking hate the Russians because we freaking hated the communists, and they're not. And I find that very strange. I find it really, really, really weird. Anyway, that's going to be an issue to consider. I will say this, and some of the folks who know Dutch politics better than I, his party won like 35 seats out of, guys, tell me, was it 135 or 150 seats in the parliament? The number, maybe 150, I think. Was it 150, I think? Thank you, Super Hornet, for the gift on TikTok. And I looked at it and went, that's a pretty crappy number. That's not a majority, right? Tell me real quick, is the Dutch parliament 150? I think it is. But 135 doesn't get you close to a majority, but the idea was, I guess, with his coalitions, he would have a majority. The only thing is it's 150. Okay, with his coalitions, he'd have a majority. But then I saw some other Dutch people saying, you don't know Holland. This is going to be, he may not be able to put together a government, is the first thing. Thank you, Jonathan. The second thing is some of the other parties he needs to put together the government may not be as anti-Ukraine, so that he may end up having to cave and negotiate on his sort of original position of not helping Ukraine in order to get these other parties to join him into forming a coalition government. So there's still, let's see what happens, but it's of concern. We'll put it that way. Because remember, they were the guys offering the F-16s, among other things, Netherlands. So, I mean, it's a big deal if all of a sudden they go bad on Ukraine. This is a funny story. Or interesting story, maybe funny, depending how it works out. The Washington Post reports that Russia and China may be planning to build an underwater tunnel to replace the Kerch Bridge. So the Kerch Bridge, you'll recall, is a bridge down here that Putin built to connect Crimea, which he occupies, with Russia, that's about 12 miles over here, right? So what did we say, 17, 18 kilometers, whatever it would be. And this is the bridge that Ukraine keeps hitting, and that Ukraine, again, might hit really hard in the future. Well, every time Ukraine hits it, it screws things up for Russia, because they need this bridge to resupply their troops here and everything else. Well, the Russians and the Chinese apparently are talking about building their own channel, like the Channel Tunnel, right underneath. What is interesting with this, well, they're going to use Chinese money. It's going to be Chinese money. It'll be billions of dollars in Chinese money. I don't know what the Chinese get out of it is the interesting question. What is interesting about this is, and again, I wish Callum was here. I don't know. I didn't see him. Is Callum here today? He would be good for this. But any of the military guys, if any of you are here, Mustard or any of the rest, I'm curious as to how difficult or easy is it for the military to hit the tunnel? Like, basically, does this provide a more ripe target to hit, or is this harder to hit? you know what I mean, than the bridge itself. Now, the bridge itself, remember, part of the issue is they've got to hit the supports if they really want to take down the bridge. Short Fireman says depth charges. I mean, a part of me says anything underwater, it could be vulnerable and kind of fun. Like if you break through, well, Callum's been kind of sick. I hope he's not like dying on us. Underwater is harder to defend. That's what I would have thought, that you could have done some real damage underwater. So let's see. But I mean, that could be very interesting, if they even try to do it. Well, first of all, while they're trying to build it, they have to have it be defended as well, right? So, who knows? Okay, a few more stories on this. This was according to the British Ministry of Defense. Today, Russia is suffering mass casualties as it struggles to get grips with Ukraine's long-range capabilities. On November 10th, so about 2 weeks ago, likely over 70 Russian troops were killed in a strike on a convoy of trucks 23 kilometers behind the front line in Chladkivka. Just throwing it out there, interesting, nice. But this is what I talked about before, where there are still some significant battles going on, even though the war itself isn't really going anywhere at this point. Avdiivka, for example, which we talk about a lot in the East, the Russians are still trying to surround the town. Nothing's changed. I mean, there's no update to give you other than the Russians keep trying. They're pouring a lot of troops in. Apparently, they're trying to do some stuff in the air. It's not having any effect at this point, which is good. What else? The Ukrainians have identified the Russian commander who ordered the killings of the civilians in Bucha. Remember, Bucha is that village kind of northwest of Kyiv, maybe here or so on the map, not too far. I got my pointer here. It's northwest. It just isn't very far from Kyiv. That's the town where right after the Russians remember when the Russians invaded that first month and they started to stall and they got kicked out? They were kicked out of there around April 1st, end of March. Remember, they invaded like February 24th, about 5 weeks, and then they got kicked out. Well, when they get kicked out, horrific stories of civilians being killed. Remember, I always say the guy on the bicycle, the older man on his bicycle who was lying down sideways, they had shot him. I mean, just horrible stories. They've identified the lieutenant colonel responsible. Thank you, Bobby, for the TikTok gift. So that's good because, again, it gets you one step closer to war crimes prosecutions. If you can name the people, you still got to get your hands on them, but still, it gets you one step closer. More than 150 ships carrying grain and other cargo have now traveled through the Black Sea corridor since the new grain passage was established by Ukraine. That's good. Russia failed to deliver weapons to Armenia that Armenia had already purchased. Now, this story is interesting, except we don't really know what's going on. Either it's Russia being jerky with Armenia because Armenia has kind of had it with Russia and is now kind of starting to, saddle up to the West and others. Oops. TikTok for a second. Oh, TikTok says I lost the connection. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. YouTube, tell me you're still connected. Let's hope I'm still connected or somebody unplugged me. Oh, boy. Somebody tell me I'm still live. Am I still live anywhere or no? Oh, God. Oh, boy. Okay, you guys on YouTube are there. Okay, so thank God, it's a TikTok thing. There we go. Okay, it's back. Well, that was weird. Okay, hey, TikTok, it disappeared and came back. I have no idea why. No, I'm glad the YouTubers are there. Yeah, TikTok, that was very strange. That was very strange. Okay, it just said I lost the connection. And I always have these visions when it says lost the connection of like my mother in the kitchen hitting the plug and the internet unplugs. That's what I thought too. I was like, oh God, she hit the internet. Nope. I think it's something was being freaky. Okay. What were we saying? Oh yeah. So we were talking about Russia failing to deliver some weapons that Armenia purchased. Either Russia's being jerky with Armenia because they're upset that Armenia is starting to pull away from Russia, or this is Russia not having enough weapons. And basically Russia sold the Armenians weapons that they can no longer afford to deliver because they need them for their own battle. So either it's a sign that Russia's relations with Armenia are getting jerkier and jerkier, which is actually good because they may push Armenia further away, or it's a sign that Russia's in trouble militarily and they couldn't even sell them the weapons that they already sold them because Russia needed the weapons in the end. Thank you, Era, for the trunk there. So interesting either way. Denmark will increase its military support for Ukraine by another 300 million pounds. What is that in dollars, guys? I got this off of Sky News. 300 million pounds. I don't know what that is in dollars. What is 300 million pounds in dollars? $378 million. There we go. And the European Union is trying to bribe Hungary. Thank you, Hedge. European Union is trying to bribe Hungary to basically join on to another aid package for Ukraine. Hungary has said no. The EU has approved giving them 900 million euros, which is around the same in dollars, of its frozen funds. Hungary had a lot of funds frozen, because it has been backtracking on democracy and other things by the EU. So they're basically trying to bribe them into approving Ukraine's aid package in exchange for basically $1 billion. Sad because they're kind of hungry. I'm sure it's a nice people, but Jesus, that your government's, and you voted for it twice. It's kind of like the Trump thing. If you vote for it twice, I'm going to be much less sympathetic. All right, that's it for the news. I will show you a few of the auction items because we've got new auction items, and then we'll do Q&A. We do auction items every Wednesday. I've got every week I put new auction items up, and then the auction themselves happen automatically with your guys' bids on Wednesdays. We use the proceeds. Half of the proceeds go to benefit Ukraine. Half the proceeds go to benefit me because I do this full time, which is why also I ask for the gifts on TikTok and YouTube, etc., to help me pay the bills so I can keep doing this. But the auctions help too. So let me show you a couple of the auction items because I'm trying to put sort of the coolest stuff for the next couple of weeks since we're pre-Christmas. This is an all-time favorite of everyone. This is an old. I've got it. Is it a BMP3? Let me see. It's up. I don't have it written down. I think it's a BMP3 shell. It's a 30 millimeter shell. If anybody wants to remind me what a 30 millimeter shell is fired from, I think it's a BMP3 from Bakhmut, Russian, that some Ukrainians took and carved it. Oops, Ashley's messaging me. All right, that's okay. Ashley has got to go help family stuff. This is they carved it with Ukrainian trident and an angel on the back, which I think is so cool. And it's neat too because it would make a really cool candle holder. So these things are very neat. They're very popular in the auction. Another super duper from a firearm. Okay, I think that one's from a vehicle. I've got it written down. I'm forgetting now, but that one I think is from a vehicle. Also, it's really big. I mean, it's like a huge kind of, it's not a smaller like machine gun kind of thing. The second thing that we've got, it's a heavy machine. I'm thinking it's a heavy machine gun that's connected to a vehicle is what I think. That's what I mean. It's a huge shell because look at the size of this thing. This is not right. The other thing, we've got a number of things. I told you I'm putting up the coolest stuff this week because now we're close enough to Christmas. This is a really neat thing. This I've shown you guys before, which is really cool. It is actually, you might even be able to pull up the code. I don't know if you can. The code will bring you the live video on YouTube of the helicopter being shot down, which is kind of funky. But this is created by the Ukrainians. It is commemorating shooting down a Russian Ka-52 Alligator helicopter in those first couple days of the war when the Russians invaded and basically were trying to take Kyiv. So they invaded from here and came south. They especially were trying to take the Ukrainian airport at Hostomel, which is, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it's around here, I think. And or is it east? It might be west of the city. I forget exactly. I think it's up here, but it's outside of the city. Big deal, this airport. The Russians were not able to get it. And, as a result of that, it screwed up the entire Russian war effort. Had the Russians been able to get that town, they may have been able to take Ukraine in a week or two. I mean, it would have been a big deal. So this is neat because put together by Ukrainians, it is, okay, you take this out, you take this apart. This fits in I think this is so cool. You turn it around. This fits in the top. Oops. Hello. And it becomes a little display piece. Thank you, Courtney. It becomes a little display piece for a tabletop, and it is a piece of the helicopter. Each one has got like a number on the back. This one's 80. So like each piece is original, so to speak. And it commemorates the shoot. It says what target destroyed. I don't know if you can read it on here. Target destroyed. It commemorates the shooting down of the helicopter. Oop, you guys can see there and it gives you the coordinates and everything. Maybe you guys can see better. Oh, is it upside down? Maybe it is upside down. There it is. I was being stupid. It was upside down. There we go. Now you can see it. It was upside down. Beep. But I love this. And like I said, I like it because the little QR code is really fun because the QR code you zip and it pulls up the YouTube video of the helicopter being shot down. But anyway, it's a really neat piece. Magnet holds it together. It's a neat display piece. These were going for a lot in Ukraine, actually. We got them. Finally, we got these as a gift from a children's hospice that we raised money for. They sent us a number of these as gifts. So Vlad got one, I got one, and then the rest of them we're auctioning to you guys. This is the last one we've got, by the way, I should say. I'm not going to show you too much more. The two patches, more military patches. Love these, the tridents. New Ukrainian military patches, always fun. People love these. And finally, two more Christmas ornaments. I will show you very quick because I think these are very pretty. These are hand-painted Christmas ornaments from Ukraine. Oops, try to get in the way here. I'm just going to show you. One is flowers and one is a real cool bird. This one is a really cool bird with sort of fall colors, and the back of it has sort of a Christmas greeting from the town she painted it in 2023. This one is flowers alone. The flower one, the yellow one, is 5 inches, which is around 5 inches, 12 centimeters? No, 11 centimeters? What is that, guys? No, 5 inches is 12 centimeters, and the other is 4 inches. This one is 4 inches, which is like 10 centimeters. Anyway, very cool, but they're hand painted. This one I almost didn't put up, I have to admit. I did like this one. This yellow one, I was like, I may keep this one. Anyway, there's a lot more. I won't show you everything else right now. I've also got I'll show you a very cool Russian hat, Russian fake fur military hat from Ukraine. A couple more T-shirts, lots of different stuff. All right, guys. So yeah, exactly, Deb. Let me borrow it. All right, guys. Go check it out. There's about 12 items up this week. You'll find them over Discord, discord.aravosis.com. All right, let's do questions, answers, discussions, whatever you like here. Again, can be Israel, the hostage exchange. We can talk about Ukraine. Not a ton of news for Ukraine, really. Anyway, what's going on, guys? Want to discuss any of this stuff or not? Up to you all. I know it's slow. Since we had a big holiday here yesterday in America. So big holiday yesterday. Thank you, Chazak. So people are probably still hanging out a little bit. Will the ceasefire extend? The ceasefire is supposed to extend if the Hamas releases more hostages. For every 10 hostages, I believe they release, they get another day. So thank you, Lori. That could go on for 20 days, potentially, Let me see here. Rob is saying, did you hear the remote control long-time setup Ukraine had around Avdiivka that fired at the Russians? The Russians poured resources at it thinking it was manned, dug it up, and no one. So you mean they had some kind of remote control firing thing at Avdiivka? And there weren't really soldiers doing it? It was just like automated machine gun kind of stuff or what? Not sure. 10-day max. Oh, is it a 10-day max, T-Master? That I did not see. Okay, T-Master is saying it's a 10-day max. 10-day max to, meaning they've got up until day 10 from today, and then the war starts again no matter what. Do I think America will push for a two-state solution? We already are. I mean, the U.S. is already in favor of a two-state solution. We always have been. And the U.S. has proposed it several times. I mean, Clinton got very close, last time, and the Palestinians said no. So that's, or at least to the solution that was proposed. Oh, that's interesting, T-Master, huh? So yeah, U.S. is still on board, of course, absolutely still on board. Yeah, and Biden came out for today, but that's always been the U.S. position, has been 2 states. Yeah. There's really no more news about the car that crashed at the border. There was a car that exploded at the U.S.-Canadian border that initially Fox News and the conservatives or the Republicans tried to convince everybody was terrorism. And in the end, it doesn't appear to be. There are varying stories about this older guy and his wife having a health issue. Some story about them trying to get to a concert and they crashed. But there's been nothing else on it now, other than it does not look like it was terrorism. 56? Oh, okay, 56. All right. Don't know anything about what happened in Ireland. Nothing about Crimea other than the fact that the Russians want to build a tunnel. We know that. That was sort of the big news there. I don't even know what that means, but you're going. I'll let the mods deal with that person on TikTok. Take them out, mods. Rich couple from Grand Island going to a concert in Toronto. Oh, was that what it was? Well, some people were saying they were going to a Kiss concert. Some people said a health issue. It was a $300,000 Bentley. Get out of here. Really? Oh, you mean the Irish riots? Yeah, that's pretty wild. I don't know enough about Ireland, but I mean, there was it was somebody who apparently first they said it was an immigrant, so they tried to make it sound like it was a migrant. Then I read today the guy actually has been in Ireland for 20 years, which does not make you a migrant. If you've been there 20 years, you're kind of Irish at this point. And he killed some people, and because he was originally a foreigner, people rioted in Dublin. But I mean, rioted in Dublin. But again, I don't know anything else about it, but it was crazy, absolutely crazy. So I don't know. Don't know any more about it. Thank you, Beaches. I don't know what the deal is with the tunnel other than Washington Post reported that Ukrainian intelligence has intercepted the Russians talking with the Chinese about a deal, and the Chinese were interested, and the Chinese apparently were going to help pay for it. Thank you, Ernie, for the gift on TikTok. Oh, boy. What else, guys? Russia give China land in exchange for the underwater tunnel? Maybe. Beep. Jamali, God, long-term repercussions of Russia's war in Ukraine. I mean, my God, the thing is that's huge because there's so many ripples of, it's like, the stone in the pond and the ripples go everywhere. I mean, long-term impact on Ukraine, as far as pushing Ukraine to the West, making Ukraine anti-Russian. Long-term impact in terms of making Poland much stronger geopolitically in the East, right? Poland suddenly became our key ally. Poland earlier was this country that was slipping on democracy. Poland during this became our key ally in the area, right? That was super defender of freedom and everything else. Baltic states, I think, became more important. Obviously, you've got Sweden and Finland joining NATO. Finland joined. Sweden, we're still hoping, I think, eventually Turkey will be forced into it. And Hungary, that's huge in terms of how, and I don't even know, but I'm sure a lot of Scandinavians are trying to figure out sort of the future and how this changes the future of Scandinavia vis-a-vis Russia and the security in that region. You've got NATO's reinvigoration, I would say. I mean, NATO became relevant again, really, right? That became a big deal. Potentially this could have reinvigorated also Europe becoming its own security institution as well. Because even though the US has kind of led this effort in many ways, the Brits have certainly taken a big lead. You've had a number of European countries as well. The Germans have ended up taking a big lead, which is certainly very interesting. Actually, Germany, I don't want to say the remilitarization of Germany, but Germany's taken a lead role here that has certainly been unique since World War II. That's a whole other ripple of things that are going to change, And then I won't keep going here, but then you get it. Thank you, Neil, for there is a November gift. Okay. You also get what are the repercussions for China? What are the repercussions for Taiwan? Is China looking at this and thinking the Western powers didn't have the stamina to keep helping Ukraine? Or is China thinking, oh my God, they did such crushing sanctions on Russia and they were willing to give Ukraine so many weapons that they're going to do the same to Taiwan. We're going to be in trouble if we go after Taiwan. I don't know. Thank you, Vicky. Either way, this clearly is going to send a message to China of either let's be careful going after Taiwan, or hey, let's stay with Taiwan a year and a half and the West will get tired, right? So that's significant too. And then you get Russia. And the final point, actually, the final point is Russia. Thank you, Vicky, which is, is Putin looking at this as, and Russia overall, are they looking at Ukraine as a success? As, hey, we could do this again in a few years against somebody else, whether it's their southern neighbors that were former Soviet, whether it's the Baltic states, Poland, whatever, or is Russia looking at this as this was a fiasco? Yeah, we got new land, but this was a freaking fiasco. We got our asses. I mean, we grabbed some land, but we got our asses kicked. We lost hundreds of thousands of men. I don't know which way that goes either. But clearly, this is going to have some kind of impact on Russia. And if Russia gets more invigorated, then Russia might try to go after some other countries too. So, no, I mean, the Ukraine war it has so many sort of ripple effects as around the world, I think. So I doubt he's going after Afghanistan again. He's not that dumb. Going after Afghanistan would be bad. One second here. Thank you, Crazy American, for the gift. Clara says Ireland's prime minister has condemned anti-immigrant protesters who rampaged through Dublin after 3 young children were stabbed. That's pretty bad. Thank you, Marie. Were stabbed, saying the rioters simply wanted chaos, not to protect the country's way of life. I always do wonder with rioters. I'm sorry, but the whole rioting thing, when I see people rioting and setting on fire, there's a part of me that says these are sort of anarchists or whatever who basically wanted to have fun anyway, and they were planning to do this. Not they're sincerely upset about 3 young children getting killed. I don't think so. When you go riot and set things on fire, there was already something going on there, But who knows? I mean, oh, that's interesting. Valerie says all the rescue workers today in Israel were female pilots, medics, etc. Amazing to see a country recognize that women and children needed that. Well, I was just going to say just that. There was one reference on TV. They've been repeating repeatedly that the Israelis handpicked all their staff who were dealing with the hostages today, and they didn't explain more than that. And I was kind of wondering in my head, like, what does that actually mean? If they were all female, that might explain it. They might have thought, you're just going to have a lighter touch, or at least the impression is of a woman being nicer or something than a guy, so that if you're a trauma victim, it might be more easier to have a softer woman than a harder guy. At least the impression, of that. That's interesting. Is the USA going to war anytime soon? I don't think so. Of course, define going to war, right? Depends what you mean. I mean, we're already bombing Iranian interests in the Middle East because they're attacking us. So, that'll keep happening. I don't think we're sending troops in anytime soon. Don't think so, at least. I don't know. Brenda says, do we know anything about Ukrainian estimates for civilians dying in Mariupol? I thought I heard around 100,000 too. But remember, like the other day, the UN said only 10,000 civilians died in Ukraine. And I was like, 10,000? It has to be more than that. But I think the UN thought that was a lot. And I was like, I think it's a lot more than that. Do I think Lebanon will get into the war in Israel? I mean, it's not really Lebanon. It's Hezbollah in southern, which is like the terrorist group in southern Lebanon that's allied with Iran. I mean, they've been holding back. That's been very interesting too. Hamas has even complained that the Iranians and then Hezbollah, which is in cahoots with the Iranians in southern Lebanon, haven't been more involved. And I wonder whether it's because we sent a strong enough message to Iran and Iran sent a strong enough message to Hezbollah that they better stay the F out of it. So it's certainly interesting that they're lobbing some bombs, but that's all they're doing. So, who knows? Anything with that can change, I question what the UN knows anyway, as we've talked about before. I think the UN again, having worked there, I have zero confidence in the expertise of the UN. And I guarantee you the UN's numbers on anything go through a political filter first. I guarantee you of that. The UN is never going to put out numbers that might upset one of its donors or God knows what, Andrew, they're going to ban you with that. Just warning you on TikTok. I get the reference, but it's probably not relevant to what we're talking about. And somebody's going to ban you. Be careful, because they're going to think you're just being weird. I know. Be careful with that, though. Jokes can be taken wrongly by mods sometimes who don't get the nuance. You're making a Trump joke. I get it. But just be careful. I can't even explain that one. But it was the other day Trump decided he was going to explain the issue again, which everybody was like, are you insane? You know? What else we got, guys? We don't have to go long today. Since it is kind of a slow day anyway. Like I said, with the day after a big holiday in America, the mods are old. Yeah, those mods. No, I'm probably older than most of our mods. I'm probably older than all of our mods. Do you think Ukraine will be being a hostile nation on Russia's border is worth this war for the Russians? I mean, first of all, it depends what you mean. They've made Ukraine a hostile country. I don't think Ukraine was a hostile country. Ukraine now is a hostile country. They hate the Russians now, you know? So that's a different story there. But I mean, from a Russian perspective, they got some land, you know, they're probably happy with that, you know, but they've lost a lot of men. If they care, they maybe don't care. I don't know. How long do you think the war will go on in Ukraine? I mean, it could go on for 10 years, guys. Sorry, you want to get you all. It could easily go on for 10 years. I mean, if the Russians don't pull out and what are the Ukrainians going to do? You know, I mean, the Ukrainians aren't going to give up on their land. So they're going to keep going after the Russians. They're going to have guerrilla warfare going on. I mean, you know, so I don't see the war ending. I mean, thanks, Shahar. I don't see the war ending. I mean, also from Ukraine's perspective, Russia's just going to invade again in 5 years when they get their military back, unless basically Ukraine joins NATO or has NATO peacekeepers in the country. Short of that, I don't see NATO doing either of those. But short of that, I don't know how this doesn't happen again. Thank you, Lisa. Which is why it was stupid not to have Ukraine, not to give Ukraine the weapons they needed right away and enough of them to basically beat Russia. Because if you don't beat Russia, this war is going to happen again. This was, I mean, potentially a real waste. I mean, that was stupid anyway. Thank you, Lisa. Do you think we'll be able to get Republicans to continue funding Ukraine? I suspect I think they're under a little pressure. Well, here's the thing. Well, okay. Getting most Republicans to support Ukraine, no. If you're willing to take Democratic votes, thank you, Joe, there's more than enough votes to pass it in the House. The Senate is fine. Republicans support it in the Senate. But in the House, it all depends. If Republicans say, we're happy passing it with, you know, I don't know, 110 Republican votes and 120 or 110, you know, Democratic votes, okie dokie. But the crazy right wing, the MAGA wing, is going to go nuts with that. They don't want to pass anything with Democratic votes. They want it to only be Republicans. Well, if it's only Republicans, you need every Republican except for supporting it. That's never going to happen with aid to Ukraine. So I think in the end we will get it. I also think maybe we'll get less. I also think they're going to make Democrats. The irony is they're going to make Democrats give up on. Actually, this is the real irony. The MAGA supporters who are against Ukraine keep saying spend the money at home instead. And I've been telling them, your party doesn't spend money at home. Your party cuts taxes. They don't spend money on domestic programs. That's not what Republicans tend to do. They are going to force Democrats to cut domestic programs in order to fund Ukraine. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. So the irony is it's not like, and they're still going to cut back some of the money to Ukraine. They're going to cut back some of the money, but they're not going to spend it domestically. They're going to make Democrats cut domestic programs. Just watch. But I think that's what's going to happen. So, you know. Can Americans unite to create world peace? No. Nope. Not when one party has lost its mind. If it comes back to normal, maybe. But right now, they're crazy. It depends which car, Timothy. Oh, it's cute to say spend the money at home, but they're telling a party that doesn't. Republicans aren't going to spend the money at home, but they're not going to. I mean, what? Republicans are going to spend the money on education? No. They want to cut the Department of Education. Republicans are going to spend the money on healthcare? No. Right? I mean, so what are they going to spend it on at home? They're not. So, yeah. So it's, but it sounds cute. It's politically, it's a nice message. Yeah, wouldn't it be better to spend it at home, right? But try not spending money. Well, try living in the world. Try doing national defense without spending money. Good luck with that, right? I mean, right? Try running a national healthcare system without spending money. You know, they'll spend it on beer. That's exactly what they're going to do. Exactly. Well, that is true. I mean, the Israel stuff is kind of funny, actually, because Republicans will spend money on Israel. Republicans and Democrats both. Actually, that is a very good point. That is a very good point. Valerie just said, now Republicans want money for Israel. It's hypocritical. They aren't spending it at home. She's right, by the way, which is basically Republicans were complaining about Ukraine, saying, we need to spend this money at home. Why are we spending money on foreign wars? Oh, Israel needs money for a foreign war. Well, that's okay. Now, I'm fine with helping Israel and Ukraine, so I'm consistent on it. But for Republicans, it is funny and hypocritical that suddenly spending money not at home is okay because it's Israel. But when it's Ukraine, oh, we have a principle that we just don't help countries abroad anymore. Oh, America first, right? So no, these guys are all liars. They're all liars. World War III is nowhere near. No. The U.S. is fighting proxy wars. Of course we are. Every country does. I think the whole argument about proxy wars is stupid. Every country fights proxy wars. What do you think we do? Everybody we're helping is a proxy war in some way, right? I mean, we're helping Israel. It's a proxy war. We're helping Ukraine. It's a proxy war, so to speak. I mean, yeah. We're fighting via them. Sure. Every country does that for any country they support that's at war. Yeah. Why do Americans love Israel so much? That, it's a tough, I don't know. I mean, I don't know to some degree. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know to some degree. What I mean is it goes back so many years and there's so many aspects of it in the culture that it's hard to say. I mean, what is interesting to me, a better question is, looking at both those, why does America support Israel and why does America tend to support Israel and why do Europeans tend to support Palestinians? That's the interesting thing to me. And that could go with the history in Europe and anti-Semitism playing a role. It certainly goes in America with, and again, but the question is why? When I was growing up, it was nonstop hearing all about Palestinian terrorism. I mean, horrific things these guys did to Jews worldwide. And again, not even go after Israelis, which is bad enough. They were just happy killing Jews anywhere. That influenced me a lot. Younger people today have, in the last 20 years, have mostly heard about Israel doing bad things to Palestinians. They haven't heard nearly as much about the stuff I heard about growing up, right? About blowing up planes, blowing up synagogue, or religious institutions, doing all the horrific stuff these guys did. The Munich Olympics. So that's part of it too. Is just depending what you heard growing up is going to influence you, like in America itself, even. But I don't know. I'd be very curious to sort of, like I said, you'd almost need to do a cross comparison of Europe, of Europe and America as far as why one went one way and the other went the other, more or less, But I think it's so many different factors. We have a lot of Jews in America, but that's not just a power question. That's a cultural question, right? I have lots of Jewish friends. I don't have lots of Arab friends. Palestinians, I've met, I don't even know, one Palestinian that I can even think of in my life that I've met. I'd have to really think if I know anybody else Palestinian. But I made a Palestinian friend in graduate school who was a neighbor years ago, 30, 40 years ago. I mean, Jews, I've known Jews since college. So that could influence you as well. You have a relationship with people and you don't have a relationship with other people. Evangelicals, that's a whole other issue, right? The far right, sort of the religious right in America, they've got their own reason why they're super pro-Israel, and they certainly influence the Republican Party. So they're able to influence that party. We had one Jewish friend in high school. That was it. I knew one Jewish guy in high school. That's it. So, yeah. So thank you, Jonathan, for the gift. New York is the second largest Jewish population to Israel. I'm not surprised. Well, America's got a lot of that. We're the second largest Greek population too. you know. Well, now, I'm from the Chicago area. I live in Washington, D.C. now, but I'm from the Chicago area. He bans you if your statement is too strong for him. I don't know what that means. No, you're banned if you're a jerk. That's it. You will not be banned on TikTok unless you're being a jerk. Thank you, Richard. Disagreeing is fine. Just don't be a jerk. So, okay. You're just leaving now. You're just leaving. I didn't say I've only known one Muslim. I know lots of Muslims. You're being a jerk. You are so close to leaving. It's not even funny. I said I've not met many Palestinians at all in the United States. Unless there's, a Palestinian gumball machine you could point me to, or a Palestinian grinder. But it's not really my fault that day to day in work settings, in bars, in family settings, I never meet Palestinians in America. That's a reflection on America. Whereas Jews, you meet a lot of Jews. So Muslims, you meet more Muslims, but you don't meet a lot of Muslims in America either, to be honest. More, yeah, but not a lot, but you meet more. Again, outside of Detroit. Detroit, you'll meet a lot. I'm not from Detroit. I don't live in Detroit. So why are Republicans so authoritarian? Isn't that a question? So pro-authoritarian? I don't know. I really don't. Well, I do know. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say. I was going to say, because also, the left gets that way too. I mean, the left can be that way too. But it's not Democrats sort of being. Democrats have got crazy people. Republicans right now, the crazy people run the party. I mean, just look at what's going on. Joe Biden tends to be more moderate, and you've got the far left pulling at him, right, on Israel and everything else. And Republicans, it's Trump who runs the party. And Trump, it's not like the normal people run the party. And there's the crazies like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene picks at them from the far right crazy. But guess what? She represents Donald Trump, who is the head of the party. So for some reason, Republicans are farther along on the path to authoritarianism. I would suggest, I would say that I would not think that Democrats are immune, because now it's clear to me that a sizable number of Americans are fine with fascism if it suits their purposes. I didn't think that was possible before. I do think it's possible now. And on the left, it could happen too, but it's not happening. It is happening on the right. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm very surprised that they're even putting up with it on the right. It's weird to me. Like I said, because, I grew up on the right, and you don't stand for anti-American stuff. I mean, Donald Trump's comments about hating American troops and stuff, you just don't. That kind of stuff doesn't fly, and yet he can do it and get away with it. It's all the stuff against the Constitution and everything. It's just no. I don't. Again, if I could figure it out, maybe we all could. This is maybe the nature of fascism and authoritarianism anyway. I mean, we're seeing it in Europe too. That this, like, you just don't think these things could be happening again. I will say this as American. We would look at it normally and think, oh, that's Europe. Oh yeah, Europe. They still got that fascism problem, Le Pen and blah, blah, blah. We never thought that was an issue here. And now all of a sudden it's here. Yeah, Italy too. Yep. Oops. The other messages didn't scroll up. There we go. Oh yeah, he's crazy. The Netherlands, yeah. Wilders, yeah. I've known about him for years. That's very scary. It's very scary. Pakistan is throwing out all Afghan immigrants back to Afghanistan. That's interesting. Didn't know about that. That's weird. Chat needs an edit button. Yeah, so does Twitter. Why don't Palestinians want two states? The problem is, there was a poll recently showing most Palestinians didn't want two states. The problem, I think, is, for example, I was reading the poll to you guys, and that poll sort of gave an option. One option was two states. One option was Palestine gets everything. Well, if you're asking people, and mind you, you're in an area where it's not totally safe either, right? You say the wrong thing, at least part of the Palestinian people, their government is a terrorist group, Hamas. You ask people, would you rather give the Jews half of our land, or would you rather keep 100% of the land? Of course, I mean, it kind of makes sense. They'd go, let's keep 100%, right? So I mean, if you look at it that way, I think it depends how it's phrased and everything else, potentially. I'd be curious if Palestinians really don't care about having a two-state solution. I don't know. I'd be a little surprised, though. I would think a lot of them probably would say, it's fine at this point. But who knows? Who knows? Oh. Thank you. Who was that? Louie. Thank you, Louie. Appreciate that. Oops. Beep, 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 beep. Angel. Democrats will keep Biden. The question is whether Biden will keep Biden. No one's going to run against Biden, so Biden will stay the choice. The question is, would Biden step down? The issue for Biden becomes, for Democrats, first of all, we heard the same stuff last time. Biden's boring. He's too moderate. He's old. We don't like him. And he beat everybody in the primaries, So like it makes you wonder sometimes, right? People say this, but he's the guy a free and fair election picked, right? And then running against Trump, Biden won, Different now, maybe different now, but I also feel like it's unfortunate, but people need to kind of slap voters around and say, you know what? Grow up already. You don't like Biden. Seriously, they don't like Biden because he's old. Give me a break. Of course he's old, but give me a break. The same people saying they're not going to vote for Biden because of Gaza, which is just bizarre, are the same people who said they weren't, literally the same people who said they weren't going to vote for Biden unless he forgave their student loans, which I think was a bullshit issue to start with. But nonetheless, he forgave their student loans. And then the Republicans took it to court and struck it down. They then blamed Biden, even though it wasn't Biden's fault, and then threatened him on the Palestinian stuff. So like, how many different ways are they going to come up with, we're not going to vote for you unless you give us this, unless you give us this, unless you give us this. At a certain point, it's like, go away, so anyway, I just feel like and I will say this too, Biden brings it on himself because he doesn't promote what he's done. He just doesn't. He doesn't, so that people don't even know what he's done. Biden's actually very smart. He's just shitty, I think, at promoting stuff at public relations. Hello, what do you want? You want to come up? I don't want to play right now. You got to wait, kid. You've got to wait. I bought the dog more toys, so now she wants to play all day now. She doesn't like the toys I brought back from DC. You want to come up? Come on. No, I know you want your ball. I know you do. But I had to buy, actually, and I've got her even some more new toys. We've got, this one arrived right before you guys came. What is that? What is that? Should we give you a pig? I'm a little worried about giving you the pig. I don't want to give her too much stuff because I'm afraid if I give her too much in advance, then she's not going to use it. When basically I want stuff around as a fallback when she gets bored, but let me try this. Ugh. Hang on. Take this thing off too. Ay, there we go. Oh, another tag. God, there's so many tags on these crazy things. What is this? What is this? Oh my God, go get it. It's a giant squeaky pig. Let's see if she likes it. I think she'll like it. What is it, Sash? What is that? Oh, she doesn't play with it. I'll kill her. I think she'll play with it. Okay. Anyway, hello, Super Hornet. Well, we'll see. Well, she's on the other side of the room now, either playing or not playing with it. Oh, yeah. She's squeaking it now. Oh, your dog's heard it too, Lena. Well, she's got a little squeaky ball. I did find, on Amazon, super cheap, 4 little squeaky balls that were super cheap. They're perfect. They're they're little squeaky pigs, but they're little baby pigs. This thing's kind of a big pig. This is a whole other, oops. What? What are you doing? What are you doing? Hello? I'll show you. She's sitting with it, but now she's looking at me. Oh, don't you whine to me. Okay, now she's playing with it again. Okay, hold on. This is Sasha with the new pig. But she looked up because I was checking her out. There we go. I was checking her out, so she decided to look up and look back. Oops, it gets a little too bright on YouTube. But anyway, oh yeah, she's squeaking. This is good. She's squeaking it. She likes that. It's this big pig that just goes. Oh, oh, oh. Sounds like a bit sort of a mix between a fart and a pig. Oh God, I don't know if you can actually hear it from here. We'll see. Anyway, all right, guys. I think let's call it quits. Yeah, she wants the other one. No, that's what I figured. She didn't want that. She wants the little one. Your only question answered. Well, I don't get to see all your only questions, Magical. What's your question? I favor your questions a lot when they're asked. Ask again, but it's hard to see all the damn questions. You know that. I can't see all of them. What's your question? No, we're not playing. Yeah, see, she wants the other toy now. Give me your other question, because otherwise I'm signing off. Type fast. Type fast. Well, I said Netherlands. I think it's scary. He's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. I do favor him because he's been a longtime supporter. I like longtime supporters. I should be nice to longtime supporters. I will favor you too over time, Matan. Beep, 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 beep. Hang on. Magical's writing his question. Looking here. Sasha, stop. Exactly. Tula Kiwi's my real favorite. Actually, Callum's my real favorite. I have no favorites. Stop. We'll play in a minute. Just wait. Oh my God. Somebody taught my dog to whine in like the last 6 to 9 months, and I don't know who. She's going to the other room for a second, and it's like having a little kid. It's so annoying. She just walked out of the room. Sorry. But she's become a little whiner when she wants to play. She's like, you're like, oh my God. Magical. Come on. All right, so waiting for or another question or something. She learns from other dogs. Oh, they pick stuff up from other dogs. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. She's turning 14. And she just picked it up. She must have picked it up from some of the dogs. Thank you, Jeremy. They learn stuff. Yeah, cute. That's cute, lonesome. I will say that was a good joke, at least. No, but they do. They pick stuff up from other. Okay, now she needs to go out and pee. All right, guys. I'm going to sign off. The dog's got to go pee. Magical, put your question in tomorrow. All right, so I'm coming. Okay, guys, she's got to go. I'll see you all tomorrow. Not tomorrow. This Monday. Show up for a coffee talk tomorrow. It's going to be 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern.